We'll call the October 1st meeting of the Stillwater Planning Commission to order. It will be the process this evening to call for items on the agenda. The commission will hear briefly from staff first, then the applicant and/or their representative, then open the public hearing and hear from those in favor and/or in opposition to the request. When you come to the podium, please clearly state your name and address for the record. And then before closing the public hearing, both the staff, applicant and/or their representative will be provided an opportunity to respond and to provide additional information and questions. After all interested parties have spoken, the public hearing will then be closed and we will hear closing remarks and alternatives from staff. So we have a couple of housekeeping items before we get into the public hearing section tonight. The first item is the election of a chair. It's that time of year for the Planning Commission.
So I would motion to re-elect Jana Phillips as chair for the Planning Commission.
I will second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We shall now vote. Okay, motion passes. The next item is election of a vice chair. And I would like to nominate Commissioner Williams as the vice chair, if he has no objection.
I have no objection.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We shall now vote. Motion passes 3-0. We'll now move into the public hearing section. The first item is a map amendment, and we will hear from staff.
Thank you, and good evening, commissioners. Jacqueline Porter, city planner. I will be presenting the items tonight. Their first item is a map amendment at 1002 South Husband Street from two-family residential to commercial business. The subject property is located in the southwest area, just southwest of downtown, near the intersection of South Husband Street and West 10th Avenue. The subject property is located in the southwest intersection. It is currently zoned two-family residential with single-family structures with an accessory structured detached garage, and they are wanting to rezone the property. Stone Cloud is located there to the northeast of the subject property, as well as Empire Slice House, and that is pizza. Here's a street view looking west towards the subject property off of South Husband. Property is, as stated, is zoned RT with similar zonings surrounding it, with CB located directly to the north. Future land use map that was adopted with the 2030 comprehensive plan show the desired use of this area to be commercial. Are there any questions for staff?
I don't see any from the planning commissioners. Nope.
Yep.
Thank you.
And Stephen's here
Okay.
representing the applicant tonight.
Great. Like to come forward and introduce the project on the applicant's behalf? That would be great.
Good evening, Commissioners. Stephen Gose, Gose & Associates, 113 East 8th Avenue. Like Jackie said, here on behalf of the developer, he couldn't be here tonight, so he asked me to fill in. The staff report covers everything. Jackie covered it. So just seeking to do uses more in line with the CB as that area develops and needing some more space because there's no more land. So
All right.
if there's any questions, I can try to answer them.
Any questions? No questions.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Thank you.
At this point, we'll open the public hearing, and I would offer, if there's anyone in the audience this evening that would like to come forward and speak in favor of this item. In favor? Okay. All right. Seeing no one that would like to come forward to speak on being in favor, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition of this item?
Yes.
All right. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Members of the commission, I appreciate you taking the opportunity to let me speak tonight. My name is Griffin Puvito. I live at 1104 South Husband, which is literally one block south of these places. I am a professor at the Spear School of Business in Oklahoma State University. I moved to this area. I bought my house in 2014. I moved here from Houston. I was immediately captivated by the area and the residential charm. It looked like something that used to exist on Leave It to Beaver. I enjoyed the fact that the library was a block away and the community center was 2 blocks away, and if I wanted to eat dinner or have a drink, I could go downtown and do that quite easily. And the best part, of course, is that I live 1.5 miles from my office, which I did not have that opportunity in Houston, I will assure you. And in fact, I was shocked to find out after I bought my house that my mother-in-law, who as far as I knew, had never lived in Stillwater. It turned out she had actually lived around the corner from me as a little girl and could still name all of the neighbors and the kids that she played with. And again, this is like 70 years ago. She was 6 or 7 years old at the time. It has a very unique character that I don't think needs to be disrupted. It has already been harmed by the location of the bar and the pizza joint, and I think any further disruption is going to ruin the area. So first of all, my first objection is going to destroy the residential character of the neighborhood. I think also that it discourages the development of downtown. I don't know if you have been to Main Street lately, but it remains underutilized and underdeveloped. Main Street is a big wide street with parking that runs all the way from 6th Street to 12th Street. So unlike Husband Street, which is a narrow residential street and which has now turned into effectively a one-way street in the afternoons and evenings because of all the street parking for those 2 businesses that we talked about. And we know this is true because they've added 2 new stop signs in the area just to manage the traffic. I've had to change how I go back and forth to work because otherwise you're dodging cars and trying to navigate a one-way street when there is a big wide 2-way street literally a block to the east. So Main Street is made for this sort of development. Husband Street is not. And then the final thing I would point out is there's necessarily a financial aspect to this that I have invested in my home. I have maintained it. I have put on a new roof. Last summer, I added a deck. Just a few weeks ago, I had a line locate so that I could put in some new shade trees after the last ones came down in a storm. And all of that is going to be for nothing. If you change the residential nature of this area, you're going to take away all of the investment that myself and others like me have made in this region. So in conclusion, I would say put yourself into my position that if you go to your house tonight and you realize that a block away there could be a vape shop or a dispensary or a strip mall, who knows what it's going to be, you wouldn't appreciate it. And if you are going to turn this whole area commercial, then please do so that no one else gets sucked in to believing that it's going to be the same character it was for the previous 100 years. So I know you're not in the position of choosing winners and losers. You're here to act in the best interest of Stillwater. And I would argue that it is the best interest of Stillwater not to make this zoning change. That's all the statement I have.
Thank you. I'll ask if there's anyone else in the audience this evening that would like to speak in opposition on this item. Seeing no one, I would allow this opportunity for the applicant's representative to come back and address some of the concerns that were raised.
I understand the residents' concerns and all of that. Any redevelopment in the area would go in line and permitted through the city in line with commercial business. And with the comp plan showing all that area is commercial, when that decision was made years ago to overlay that area, it invited people wanting to invest in the community in ways other than how it's currently developed. So that's all I can say on that.
Any questions from the commissioners for the applicant's representative?
Are they planning on keeping the existing building there and utilizing it for commercial business? Or
As far as all the discussions I've had is keeping that business or that building in its current configuration right now. They actually have the Payne County Democrats are meeting in there, so that's part of what's encouraged this application is to get that to a allowable use. So. And the applicant has purchased a lot of land in the area and developed it, and where they can, rebuilding houses, reusing them, other places repurposing. So.
I think one question I have that the applicant raised is, would any on-site parking be developed if the use were to become? It sounds like now maybe it's a volunteer meeting place. So if it becomes a place of commercial business, will there be parking required on site, or would it be street parking?
So within the commercial business district, there's no required parking. The parking requirements don't apply to anything within the commercial business or in the CB district. There are some areas on this property you could probably put some parking off the alley. The next item on the agenda is to look at doing some parking in the area to support the businesses and things within the area. So, and I know the city manager's office had been working through a downtown parking assessment where we could do on street, where we could do off street. Mm-hmm. And there are provisions in the code that the residents, if they need to park or mark one side no parking based on the street widths, our code does allow for marking no parking on one or both sides to help with emergency access and regular flow. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you. So we will now close the public hearing and hear findings and alternatives from staff.
All right, well, the slide does not have it, but I will read them to you from the packet. The Land Development Code allows for rezoning of the land via map amendment. Commercial business is located adjacent to the property across West 10th Avenue. The comprehensive plan calls for commercial use in this area. All right, so I do have your alternatives here. Accept findings and recommend that the City Council approve the proposed map amendment as presented, or find that the map amendment is not an appropriate use for the property based upon the impact to the surrounding vicinity, and do not recommend that the City Council approve the map amendment, or find that additional information or discussion is needed prior to making a recommendation and table the request to a certain date.
Thank you, Jackie.
You're welcome.
Commissioners, do I have a motion or any discussion?
I just think there's going to be continued pressure with Block 34 coming in for more commercial development in that area. And with Main Street just one block east, which is commercial, it's going to be a real challenge for residences who are concerned about commercial enterprises so close to them. I think that's just
For the record,
Sir, the public hearing's been closed. Thank you.
just want to catch up. Sorry.
so I just think there's going to be continued pressure for that space, that north side of the residential area all along 10th Street.
Right.
Just an observation.
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts? Go ahead.
We already closed here. I'm looking at the map. So this one, and then the next item on our agenda is actually 2 houses to the south.
Correct.
So it'll be surrounding this residential house.
Right. We can always ask staff if we have a question about
So I'm wondering what,
on the zoning comparisons.
well, just surrounding the residential with commercial, and also what requirements they're going to be having on putting up landscaping or screening, and what their plans are for that.
So I think, yeah, go ahead,
Yeah,
Jackie.
Mine are Stevens on screening, because any commercial use that goes in, it does trigger for landscaping between a residential district and a commercial district. So those would be triggered to meet.
So they would have to do screening around both of those commercial properties at that point.
Once the uses become
Okay.
apparent.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I agree with what Commissioner Peter said, was that it's going to be continued pressure in this area for development, whether it's going from residential to commercial or to multifamily. We're going to probably continue to see more and more of these things coming up on our agendas in that area.
I would tend to agree, and I think that the comprehensive plan that's been in place for over 20 years looked at this area and really kind of set up a plan in motion quite some time ago to move it towards commercial. And I agree that the developments that have occurred in the last few years are beginning to kind of see that forethought come into play. So. Anyone thinking about a motion?
I'll motion to accept the findings and recommend that City Council approve the proposed map amendment as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. We shall now vote. Motion passes, and that means that the item will then go to the City Commission for City Council for their review. Next item on the agenda is another map amendment, and we'll hear from staff again.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so this next item is a map amendment request at 1010 South Husband Street. It is also 2-family residential to commercial business. The subject property is located just south of the property that we just spoke about, near the intersection of 10th Avenue and South Husband. It is in the middle of the block of the intersection. There are 2 accessory structures currently on the property, with the primary structure of a single family, a carport, and a little tool shed. As mentioned previously, this subject property is near Stone Cloud and Empire Slice that are across to the north of West 10th Avenue. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property to commercial business for potential parking or commercial redevelopment. So here is a street view looking west towards the subject property off of South Husband Street. As mentioned, this is a rezoning. It is RT with similar zoning surrounding it, and with the previous item, that's to the north has been suggested to be CB, is in the vicinity as well as to the north of 10th Avenue. Future land use map of the subject property projects the area to be commercial. Are there any questions for staff?
No questions. Thank you, Jackie. At this time, we would give an opportunity for the applicant's representative to come forward and add a little bit more information.
Stephen Ghost again. I guess for all the reasons in the first one, the comp plan showing this commercial, just like was alluded to earlier, the pressure on the neighborhood for things to happen. And like Jackie said, any development that happens on this, if it indeed goes to a parking lot, all the engineering and planning standards will have to be followed. This will be reviewed, site plan, drainage study, all of that. And we found on similar projects, any alley, if we're touching the alley, you got to make improvements to that all the way to the nearest adjacent paved street. So, are there any questions?
Any questions?
I noticed this house is already up off the foundation.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Corey's plans are for it, but he likes salvaging old homes, so he's probably got somewhere he's planning on moving it to.
Yeah, but it'll probably be moved. I mean, you
Yeah,
don't
I mean,
lift
if
the
they
house
went
up
to the
drop it
trouble of
back
putting
down
it up
again,
on blocks, so
yeah. Okay.
you just got to find somewhere to put it.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing and ask if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor of this item to please come forward. Seeing none, I'll ask if there's anyone in the audience that would like to come forward and speak in opposition of this item.
Members of Griffin Pivotal, again, I'll renew all of my same objections. I think you are faced with a choice between a nameless, faceless applicant who didn't care enough to show up tonight, as opposed to a flesh and blood occupant of the region. I agree that the area is going to be commercial, but you need to push that commercial area over here. There's literally a parking garage across the street, which is widely underutilized, and instead you have all of this on-street parking on South Husband that you're going to prefer to deal with. And as we mentioned, from an emergency standpoint, I don't know if you've been over there during the busy hours, but it is quite distressing, quite difficult to navigate. I don't know how they would get a fire engine in there to deal with any emergencies that arose. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll ask if there's anyone else in the audience this evening that would like to speak in opposition. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, are there any questions you would like to ask of the applicant on this one? Okay, very good. At this time, we'd ask staff to come back and present findings and alternatives.
All right, I got another blank one for you, so I'll read it to you. The Land Development Code allows for rezoning the land via map amendment. Commercial businesses located in the vicinity to the north of the subject property across of West 10th, and the comprehensive plan calls for commercial in this area. So again, your alternatives tonight are accept findings and recommend that City Council approve the proposed map amendment as presented. Find that the map amendment is not an appropriate use for the property based upon the impact to the surrounding vicinity, and do not recommend that the City Council approve the map amendment, or find that additional information or discussion is needed prior to making a recommendation, and table the request to a certain date.
Thank you. Commissioners, anyone forming a motion or any other comment?
Just the same challenges with the previous property. I mean, it's in that zone. Yeah. You know, the city had planned for that area to convert to commercial. You know, over time. It's kind of amazing. It's taken 20 years, even now, to reach that point. But I'm in sympathy, but I can understand the changes that are going on in that neighborhood.
I will make an observation based on an observation based on the comments that were made. There is a lot of on-street parking that occurs at the intersection that we're talking about. And I would just offer that if any citizen sees anything that they think is a danger to public safety, that they should report that to the proper emergency authorities and let them know if a car is blocking away and it looks like that, you couldn't get an ambulance or a fire truck there, that you can certainly call and they can have them ticketed or towed. So there are options there. for us to be law-abiding. And I believe it was also mentioned earlier in the earlier item that the city has procedures in place if a two-way road is getting narrowed by consistent parking, that it can always have parking just on one side as opposed to the other. So I think there are mechanisms in place to address the public safety concern that was brought out this evening. Do you have any more comment or perhaps a motion? I'll say Chair will move to accept findings and recommend City Council approve the proposed map amendment as presented. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We shall now vote. Motion passes 3-0. And again, that particular item will be forwarded on to the City Council for their review and consideration. Okay, that concludes the public hearing section of the agenda. The next item is reports from officers and boards. We have the opportunity to review and approve the Planning Commission's schedule for 2025. Do I hear a motion to accept the proposed schedule?
I move to accept the proposed schedule.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We shall now vote. Motion passes 3-0. Last item, I guess I should ask, do we have any last minute
No
comment? Okay, perfect. Last item is to adjourn. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. We shall now vote. Motion passes 3-0. We now stand adjourned.